We've all heard that our beliefs shape our reality, even our experience of life itself. But what if your beliefs were based on lies? Today's guest is going to help us to uncover the root to the biggest sabotage to our success. Welcome to Havilah and Friends. I'm Havilah Malone, and every week I bring you inside my amazing world of mindfulness teachers, celebrities, business experts, and inspirational speakers to have the conversations that matter to you. And today you're going to meet Lisa Lieberman Wang. For over 25 years, she has helped hundreds of thousands of people to be able to take charge of their personal and professional relationships to avoid years of shame, blame, and therapy. She's been featured on The Talk, NBC, ABC, Fox, and so much more. So please help me welcome the #1 international best-selling author of Fine to Fab, my friend, Lisa Lieberman Wang. Hey, Lisa!
Havilah, I'm excited to be here with you.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to have you here. I want you to first, because I love this, tell people what that acronym of Fine to Fab stands for.
Okay, it's quite simple. People always say, how are you doing, right? And I would say fine, and say, how are you doing? I'd say fine. And finally one day, my family had said to me, how are you doing? And I was not in the best place. And I said, I'm fine. I am effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Leave me alone. That was it. I'm done. Leave me alone. And one day I finally realized that I would rather be fab, which is fabulous, awesome, beautiful. And that's where we got Fine to Fab from.
Oh my God, I love that. I was like, yes, there are so many times that we are feeling all of those things, and to be able to get to the other side, like that's the journey that we're all on. And I think a lot of times when we create tools or we go through things, we then want to be able to help others who are going through the same thing as us. So kind of what was the inspiration behind creating that book?
Well, it was never something I wanted to do. As a matter of fact, to write a book, somebody said to me years ago, you need to write a book. And I said, I can't write a book. I don't even read books. I bought a book on speed reading and never finished it. So it was like, I'm not doing that. And then I said, if I do it, it has to. And then what ended up happening is years later, like everything else, we always think that the things that are bad that happen to us are curses, but those end up being our gifts. And it turned out through a lot of personal development and soul searching, I just decided it was time, and I ended up writing the book. And the book was really designed to help successful women stop hurting themselves. And I found that there were so many people walking around looking beautiful like us, and on the outside, everything looked like they were taken care of. And then they'd go home privately and live with shame, blame, and then years of therapy trying to resolve something that happened not now, but 10, 20, 30 years ago, and not even know what the deal was, and spend their whole life asking the question why, which is an awful question because it's a looping question. If we ask ourselves, well, why did this happen? We'll find an answer, then we'll get another thing. Well, why did that happen? And why? And before you know it, you'll find out that you'll be in an abyss of just depression or just dis-ease with yourself and never get a resolution. And there had to be a better way. And through studying neuroscience and human psychology, I realized that so many people were using tools, and I'm going to say a tool, meaning eating, using food to feel better, or alcohol, or drugs, or sex, or relationships, or spending, or whatever the vehicle was. And they use that to feel better, but it would just be filling a temporary void. And, it's kind of like an ostrich putting their head in the sand and their butt still hanging out. It's like nothing changed, but you're doing this, and then you're still feeling dis-ease. And there is a better way, and people would think willpower was the answer, or I'm going to stop it. I know I'm going to stop it. And you say, well, how could I be so smart and be doing such stupid stuff? And I was there personally. I was in corporate America. I worked for IBM and MCI. I had amazing careers. I was top in the world in what I did anytime I did anything. So you'd say, okay, blessed life, this should be easy. And I ended up with eating disorders, hospitalizations 6 times over 13 years. And I was literally trying to kill myself, not consciously, but using food to feel better. And it got to the point where it was all secretive. It's like a secret society. And everybody on the outside thought everything was great, but privately, I was feeling awful about myself. I was never good enough, skinny enough, pretty enough, rich enough. It didn't matter. It was never enough. And how did I get there? And I really thought I was in my own club. Nobody else was there until I found out there was a plethora of us out there, millions, that were feeling the same way.
There's so many people who I know are listening to you and are relating to you, because I know I went through, and still to a certain extent in some areas of my life am still going through, those self-sabotaging behaviors and those things that from the outside, everything is like, oh, it's picture perfect and everything looks great and you're successful from what people quote unquote call success,
Yes.
but yet you could be dying inside.
Yes.
I remember being in a corporate America job or whatever, great income, company cars, expense accounts, all these great things, but I would literally have to peel myself out of the bed in the morning and I was so depressed. And we don't realize that there are the internal things that are going on that start from our belief system that start to create all of these issues. And so recently you did a TED Talk or a TEDx talk on beliefs, and you brought out, like, when you even look at the word belief, there's a word inside of there, and I want you to touch on that and and bring that to people's attention. What is that piece that we need to be looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the word belief has a 3-letter word in the middle of it. It's the word lie. It's the lies we tell ourselves. And most people do not even realize that there's not even a belief we can prove. You know, you think about it when you're growing up, you were told money doesn't grow on trees, or never trust this one, and don't do that, or all the other stuff. And this was just handed down from generations and generations of people doing the best, of parents, teachers, preachers, and guardians telling them, you know, telling us what to do based on their own beliefs. But who really started it, and what's to say this is true or this isn't? And a lot of times these lies we tell ourselves become self-fulfilling prophecies without even realizing them.
And then where does a lot of this come from? The basis for where these lies are being fed in?
Well, you know, it's interesting when you say that. We have to realize how old our brain is. Our mind is like millions and millions of years old, and it actually was programmed to avoid and protect us from dealing with fear and danger and stuff like that. So a lot of the beliefs that are hurting us, or the limiting beliefs we've heard before, are because we were programmed to deal with fight and flight, you know, like something's wrong, you know, do something. And a lot of these things were instilled by well-meaning parents thinking, I want you to, you know, you need to know this. And if you know this, then you're going to protect yourself. But what ends up happening is our unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between fact or fiction. So if you tell yourself something often enough, you'll believe it to be true. So some things, like I was told by my mom, you know, never trust a man. And it's because she had a bad situation and she wanted to protect me. And that was a great thing, because as a child, we need to be, you know, we're told don't talk to strangers, right? Good thing to be told. As an adult, when you're in business, you need to talk to strangers if you're in business, and you're going to talk to people you don't know yet until they become acquaintances or friends, right? But we're weaned at an early age to learn certain things, but it doesn't mean that becomes the fact. It's just the premise to get us where we need to go, right? So think about this. My mom says, don't talk to, you know, like not to trust men. And at 16 years old, I'm date raped. And I tell my mom, and she says, don't tell your dad, he'll kill you. And I take it as I did something wrong instead of this person did something wrong. And I end up internalizing that as I'm a bad person, what's wrong with me, all these other things. And at 18, I'm attacked by an employer. And again, I'm like, see, this is me. She's right. Mom's right. And then 19 by an associate. Like, oh my, clearly I shouldn't trust men. So what ends up happening is you don't even realize is because the belief of not to trust, what do I look at? I look to find men that I can't trust to keep, you know, to protect myself. But what am I doing? I'm bringing that into my life because that's what I'm focused on, versus let me find men that are trustworthy. Do you understand? Versus saying these are amazing men out there. They're phenomenal. They'll protect you. They're going to fight for you. I wasn't looking for those men. I was looking for the men I couldn't trust, and I kept finding them. Now, this is not conscious again. This is totally unconscious, and this is what happens after, 40 years of introspection of saying what's going on here and where does this happen. And today I'm with an amazing man. My husband is unbelievably trustworthy, and I trust him with my life, but I could never have even attracted him had I not broke those lies. and started changing them into what was really the truth. And it doesn't change until we take responsibility and stop playing the victim and stop blaming everybody for what they told us, because it really comes down to three root causes. It comes down to our beliefs, the lies we tell ourselves. It comes down to the communication of what we're told and what we tell ourselves. They say that our unconscious mind, it takes 20 positive statements to counteract one negative one.
Wow.
So if you're saying like, I'm not enough, or I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not smart enough, you need 20 positive statements to counteract that one negative that you just did. And then the last one happens to do with our ship. And I talk about this more in the book. And it's our strategies, habits, impulses, and physiological control. It's what steers us and how we do what we do and why we do it. But it's all the things from the root cause of what seed was planted, that lie. And then that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh my goodness, that is so pointed and powerful. And I think that a lot of times we take for granted the things that we say, especially to each other and ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see, like, you know, maybe you're a parent and a child, they're in a store and the child starts acting up, and then the parent immediately like, oh my God, you're so bad. Like, why are you so bad?
Right.
And then you continue to reinforce that, you know, when even negative behavior is shown, but you're just reacting or just becoming emotional. But that's creating a belief inside of the mind of that child that, oh, I'm bad. And then you get in trouble again and you hear I'm bad again. And then, oh, I'm bad. So now you just start attracting more situations that do that. And I even thought about on myself, like food. I can remember like being put, like a plate of food being put in front of me, you know, growing up, and I'd be sitting at the table and I'd be full. And I remember my mom saying, you know, there's starving kids in Africa and don't eat food and we don't have money, just throw it away. And so like, it was like, no, finish your plate, like clean your plate.
Right.
That was something that was just handed down from her mom to her and generationally, like, you know, handed down. And so I got into the habit of, wait, I got to clean this, like, because I'm not a good person if I don't clean this. I won't be approved of if I won't clean this plate off. And I find myself still to this day, even as an adult, struggling with like stopping like the intake of food when I'm full and just keep eating. So it's like that belief became, like you talk about, a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the difference is, it's not that the child or even myself or us, it's not that we're bad. It's the behavior is bad. And learning to separate the behavior from the individual was not something anybody ever taught us. They're like, you know, stop doing that. You're bad. You're doing this wrong. But it's like, I don't like the behavior. You're still a good person, but that behavior is unacceptable. Like, who's ever separated that for us? Because I never had it separated as a young person. And even as an adult, people just attribute that's who they are. No, that's how they're behaving in this moment. Because we can see somebody who always behaves, let's say, correctly if there was a right or wrong, and there could be a moment where they're inappropriate. But it doesn't mean that that's who they are. That means in this moment, they're not behaving in an appropriate manner. But it doesn't mean that's them. And unfortunately, we label too easily, you know, and then we start owning it as our identity. And it's not our identity, it's just the behavior. And when we can start separating it, we'll be better.
Yes, like allowing moments to define who you are in totality, as opposed to that just being a defining moment. Like, that's who I was in the moment. That was the behavior. And okay, that behavior didn't bring me the result that I wanted, or it didn't lead to something good or empowering. Okay, cool. That's a bad behavior, or it's not a behavior that benefits me. So let me let that go. Not I'm a bad person, so now I need to be like oust out of the universe.
Exonerated. Get out of here. You're gone.
Exactly. And so you talk about the subconscious mind, and that's where those beliefs are being housed. Like, so it's not even something that you're doing consciously, bringing in these, you know, situations that coincide with your belief system. So how do we go about starting to work on changing that unconscious, you know, behavior? And first and foremost, what is the role of that unconscious mind? With you being an N.A.P. Expert, I think you probably be best to explain that.
Well, first, N.A.P. stands for Neuro-Associative Programming, and neuro is literally neuro as your mind is how you're actually programmed. Associative is a lot of times people take a situation and like we just said, it's not the person, but associative to the situation and the context of what's happening and how we program ourselves in those scenarios. I'm also a licensed master NLP and practitioner and trainer, and that has to do with the linguistics of our language, neuro-linguistic programming. So when we look at all this stuff and how we're working, you have to look at it contextually. Too often people just generalize, and realizing that when we look at people, there are generalizations, distortions, and deletions, and no matter who you are, we're always going to generalize what we're saying because we can't explain an experience to somebody as we're having it in this moment, even this moment right now. And think about who's listening. And you're listening to us right now, and you might be experiencing this moment. You think you're just listening to two really wonderful women and you're hearing what we're saying, but do you realize how the temperature is in the room and your body notices it, and how it feels when you're sitting on the seat, and what else is going on around you in the atmosphere? Is there someone yelling in the other room, or are there people cooking in the kitchen, or are you doing something else, or is there a car driving by? Because maybe you're listening while you're in the car and you're just paying attention. We don't actually realize all the things that are being deleted and distorted around us. We take it in as if, oh, we have the whole experience, but we never have the whole experience. We're actually taking it and sorting it in a manner that we can process it and do something with it. But most people don't get that. They just think this is the experience, but that's why it's different for everyone. And then to answer your question is, how do you change it? In my book, it's 7 Secrets to Overcoming Self-Sabotage. The first secret is acknowledging fear and doubt. You need to know you're doing it. If you're not aware you're doing it, then how do we refine it? How do we change it? And it's not about being aware and beating yourself up or anyone else or blaming anybody for it. It's just saying, okay, I'm aware, this is it. And I think the irony a lot of times, Havilah, is people think I know. You know what I mean? So I had an eating disorders for 13 years. I was a compulsive overeater, binge eater, and bulimic. And that means I consumed up to 18,000 calories a day, and I binge and purge and get rid of it. And people can't even fathom that. They're on 1,500 calorie diets. I mean, just imagine what I was consuming and eliminating on a daily basis. And while I was doing this, I was like #1 in the world for MCI in sales. I was doing, $4 million a year in sales. And this is 30 years ago, and I'm doing all this other stuff and I'm succeeding. And people would, how do you do this? Like, how do you, and the thing is, people go, well, Lisa, you have to do this. And I go, I know. And there was a difference of knowing and knowing. I knew it was bad for me, but I didn't know it was bad for me until I decided. Decide means put an end to any other option, to actually do something about it and stop. So when people are saying to me, oh, I know this is bad, and then they're stuffing their face, I'm like, you don't know. Because if you really knew that was bad, you'd be stopping that thing right now. That's a difference of knowing and knowing. So when I talk about acknowledging fear and doubt, I'm talking about the knowing of, this is really hurting me. This is going to kill me. This is really not serving me in the way I want to be living. And it's not filling me up, because even though you think it's filling you, there's still a void, And then it becomes like, our second step is taking inventory of life's lessons and beliefs. And that's where we just started with the beliefs. It's like, where did this come from? And it's not about blame. It's about identifying, what are we telling ourselves, and questioning it. Does it have any value? Does it have any merit? Is it working? Because there are some things that, you might think this is bad, but it's also good. There are benefits to things that we may not even realize, and that might be the exact thing that drives you, that you're like that way. And had all those things not happened to me, I couldn't help all the people I'm helping. So you can say, well, this is bad. Well, I obviously needed to go through all this stuff because now I can be a trusted guide who walks other people through it. And it's not theory. This is fact. And you don't have to live there. And I have 25 years of not hurting myself.
And I love that point of even though you may have gone through something that was very traumatic and something that's very painful, if you learn the lesson that it's there to teach and you're able to overcome that or come out on the other side of it or find a strategy or tool, then yeah, you can then live in the victory of the story and then share that with the world and help other people. So I think sometimes we go through things and people just keep thinking of the bad side of the thing that you've gone through, as
Right.
opposed to living in the gift of it, because there's a gift there as well. Even in pain, there is a gift there.
There is. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, you know, the biggest thing is all the things we use to avoid the pain, or all the things that are even hurting us from getting through it faster. Because if we just allow ourselves to be present in the moment to feel it, it won't last half as long as it does when we're trying to stuff it down.
You're absolutely right. We are prolonging the pain in our life by not doing the work. I always say that knowledge is not power. It's applied knowledge. That's power. You don't know it until you're really doing it. And Lisa breaks down some amazing steps, 7 really powerful steps in her book, Find to Fab. You definitely want to pick up a copy of that, because you can start to change the things that you believe and tell yourself things that are more empowering so that you get the results that you want, no matter what you've gone through in life. And Lisa, I just want to be able to thank you so much for joining us today to be able to share your insights. And you truly are fabulous. Like you.
Thank you.
You are so very welcome. And please tell everybody how they can get in contact with you, especially if you're looking for speakers for your events. Definitely want to pick up a copy of the book Find a Fab. Let people know how they can stay connected.
Well, you can actually find me at findtofab.com, or Lisa Lieberman Wang, the only Jewish Chinese woman with this name. It makes it easy to find me. As well, find me on all social media. And if you're looking for a speaker, I'd love that opportunity to help other people, as well as if you're looking for help. And if you're in a position where you feel successful in some areas, but perhaps not with yourself, just go to my calendar, go to callwithlisa.com, and call, C-A-L-L, with Lisa.com, and just mention that you saw me with Havilah, and I'll be happy to do a free consultation to see if and how I can help you. But only come if you're serious about changing.
No games, no playing small. You ready to change? This is definitely the woman you want to talk to. And we know that when we share our stories, we get to learn, to live, and love a little bit more. And I want you to be proof of what's possible. And I'm Havilah Malone, and thanks for watching Havilah and Friends. I can't wait to see you next week.